Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Borders. This week I will be taking you off to a country in Eastern Europe between Germany right here and Ukraine right here. The country, of course, is Poland. So when you think of Poland, what do you think of? Polka? Probably not. In fact, you probably think of the most lighthearted and cheerful event in the history of the world, the Holocaust. In fact, the Holocaust is not the only troublesome event in Poland's history. In the 18th century, Poland was divided 3 times into partitions that, by the third partition, meant that Poland no longer existed. Well, it might have existed in an alternate dimension, but you'll have to go to another channel beyond the dimensions, which only exists in another dimension. Sorry. However, Poland also existed in the minds of Poles. Thus came Poland's national anthem, Poland is not yet lost. And finally, in 1918, Poland did get its independence back. But many are fearing now that while Poland is an independent nation, it could be, quote, lost again. With the collapse of the communist regimes in the Soviet Union and throughout Eastern Europe, Poland started its process of a radical change of its state. Between 1989 and 2015, Poland developed a stable and pretty robust democracy, a dynamic market economy, modern infrastructure on par with Western Europe, a world-class education system, and perhaps most importantly, the respect and admiration of the West. However, these seemingly positive changes masked a darker undercurrent in Polish society. You see, this education system that I had talked about previously meant that many Poles were exposed to life in Western Europe, in countries like Germany and Sweden and the United Kingdom. And they saw that not only were wages better there, but there was more of a future for them, and thus many Poles, with the help of European Union freedom of movement, left Poland. And this, of course, included a lot of the smartest and highest scoring Poles. The Poles that remained thus became slightly more bitter and resentful towards the country's political and business elites who they felt had earned a disproportionate share of the rapid economic growth Poland had experienced after 1989, and wanted to share a little bit of that pie for themselves. Perhaps most significantly, in the 2010s, Western Europe's reputation for stability and prosperity was undermined dramatically when Europe experienced the twin crises of a near collapse of the euro currency in the early part of the decade and the 2015 migration problem that Europe is only figuring out how to solve now. Thus, Poles began to turn inward and sense that they had to focus on more Polishness and less on the Europeanness, opening the way for more, shall we say, outside the mainstream alternatives. Finally, the dam broke in 2015 when the neoliberal mainstream government was ousted and replaced with a political party called Law and Justice. What made this election so significant is that Law and Justice, for the first time in Polish history since 1989, scored an outright majority in the Sejm, Poland's parliament. Shortly after this election, with its majority, Law and Justice, or PIS, or shall we say in a less serious way, PiS, started its plan to revolutionize the Polish state and radically change its standing not only domestically, but in Europe. First off, the main Polish broadcaster, TVP, was purged and PiS loyalists were installed. The same process occurred in other Polish state institutions, including the state-owned enterprises and even the military, who many fear is going to be used as a tool to violently crack down on protests if necessary. The election law has also been amended, where the previous process of recording the counting of ballots and ensuring that no ballot could be erased was simply scrapped, and now that opens the door to future electoral fraud and manipulation. Rhetoric towards European Union heavyweight Germany also became more aggressive, with frequent calls by Polish politicians for Germany to pay, quote, reparations or compensation for damages in World War II, with events such as the Warsaw Massacre of 1944. So, yeah, that's not good. In fact, German politicians often, actually always, angrily dismiss these requests and hope that they can move on to another day. Finally, and perhaps most concerning, at least to the European Union, is the Polish attempt to purge the court system and install loyalists as its top judges.
So this is a quiz segment where I will ask you 7 questions, and the number of the questions you get right will be the number of letters in your country's name that I will make up for you. All right, and it'll be the country of Beyond the Borders. This is a
real country or just a Wesley country?
It's an imagined country.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
All of the quiz segments in the future will contribute to this imagined country. All right.
I have no idea.
First question: name a country that begins with the letter D.
Oh, that's easy. Denmark.
That's what I thought of as well. Name a country that ends with the letter L.
Oh dear. Oh, Portugal.
Oh, Portugal.
Yeah, I had something.
All right. Name a European country that contains a double letter.
Russia.
Russia. All right. Name a non-European country that ends with 2 consonants.
Ooh, ends with 2 consonants.
Well, I can think of a few.
I'm thinking of. I'm thinking. Oh, you can think. You can think of a few, really? Non-European country.
All right.
I'm gonna pass.
Tibet.
That's not a country, and it ends with ET.
Oh, oops. Okay, ready? Name a U.S. state that contains just 4 letters.
Utah.
Have you heard that one before? Name a country that ends with R.
Yeah, I've heard that one before. Country that ends with R. I'm
this
gonna
one's
pass.
hard.
I'm gonna pass. Which one do you think of?
Yeah,
if you can't even think of it, then we're in trouble.
Oh, man.
Let's just skip that. Move on.
Okay. And name a 4-letter country that is not in Asia.
4-letter country that is not in Asia.
Oh, of course. This one's easy.
What? 4-letter country that is not in Asia?
Yeah, I know what it is.
Oh, dear. No, Egypt has 5 letters. Peru!
Yeah.
Where's that what you're thinking of?
No, I was thinking of Laos. Laos.
Oh, Laos is in Asia.
Yeah, name a country that ends with R. It doesn't have to be in Asia.
No, a 4-letter country.
Yeah.
4-letter country.
4-letter country, not in Asia. Oh, Laos is in Asia. Ah!
Now you get it.
The problem is, you only got 5 right.
Well, that's still pretty good.
So your country is going to have 5 letters in it.
Oh.
All right.
So what exactly, or better choice of words, who exactly lies behind this madness that transformed Poland's image from a great, stable democracy to an authoritarian thugocracy? Well, the man to blame, or credit if you are a supporter of him, is Jarosław Kaczynski, the leader of the PiS party, and the man who most observers say is the most powerful in Poland. So, first let me give you a bit of a background on Mr. Kaczynski, like I have given you a background on basically every other leader in this YouTube channel. In 1962, Yaroslav and his twin brother Lech starred in a film that became a classic in Polish cinema called The Two Who Stole the Moon. Later on, Kaczynski became an anti-communist dissident and even an ally of the legendary trade unionist and another anti-communist dissident, Lech Walesa. But however, after communism ended, the pair had a falling out. You know why? Well, it's because sometimes in life you have to compromise, but Mr. Kaczynski does not like compromise. Because after Walesa made his compromises with the communist oligarchy to ensure a smooth transition between a communist socialist republic to a liberal democracy, Walesa had to make compromises and accept that certain communist loyalists had to stay within the state apparatus. Kaczynski therefore became driven by his fear and deep concern that Poland and overall the working class rural Poles that his party represents were betrayed by the Polish elite and people like Walesa, and thus they had to be purged, or else Poland could not be, quote, made great again. Kaczynski first came to power in 2005 and attempted a similar program to what I previously described, but his government collapsed in 2007 due to divisions with his coalition partners, and thus, for the first time, Kaczynski's program was scrapped. Another decisive moment was when Yaroslav's brother Lech, then the president of Poland, similar to Sergio Mattarella, a rather ceremonial figure with not a whole lot of power, died in a plane crash in Russia. Kaczynski became bitterly enraged by this moment, and he blamed the then, quote, mainstream and neoliberal government headed by Donald Tusk, now a president of the European Council, a group of where the European Union heads of government all meet together. So a little complicated. I'll have to explain that in a later video. Colluded with the Russian government. Sure, that sounds awfully familiar, but I can't remember where. To kill Lech and thus remove PiS from a threatening position. For years and years and years, Kaczynski would hold these memorial services every month in Warsaw about the plane crash that many Poles deeply disliked, and the practice was eventually scrapped in April 2018. Many fear, however, that Kaczynski's final goal is to see Mr. Tusk in jail, which will be somewhat difficult considering that Mr. Tusk can probably move to somewhere else in the European Union anyway. To put it mildly, the EU is not happy about it. They have launched a number of legal actions against Poland for their many transgressions in the media, the judiciary, and even some illegal logging that the EU has said breaks environmental rules. The EU has even gone so far to resort to the dreaded Article 7 procedure, dun dun dun, called the, quote, nuclear option, boom, boom, which, of course, could see Poland stripped of its voting rights in the European Parliament. It is called the nuclear option, at least because it has a lot of fallout, because such a step, the final step of the Article 7 procedure, would likely increase Polish Euroscepticism towards the EU, not only in the Polish people, but in the Polish government, and could even lead to Poland just straight up exiting the Union. A Pole exit, just like all my other exits. Check out my Italy videos and you'll see all the other exits. You should, in fact, check out after this. Haha! However, in spite of all these moves, there's a chance that PiS may not rule forever. Mr. Kaczynski's health is quite frail, and there are many potential successors, including Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, former Prime Minister Beata Szydło, and also Justice Minister Zbigniew Ziobro. Don't ask me to pronounce Polish names, they're really hard. And of course, all this infighting could lead to a collapse of the coalition and the allowance of a more mature democracy to take place. But don't be relieved, because as in Slovakia, a lot of young people support parties that are even further right of PiS, including one that wants a referendum on whether Poland should stay in the EU, and one that straight wants out because it does, which is really scary. So on that happy note, please, 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 please comment below, like this video, subscribe, and share to anyone you can. And next week we're taking you to another country whose once awesome reputation has taken a dramatic hit and actually gone into the toilet. Brazil.